Hi, I'm Evan Psychamius. You're listening to episode 3 of Seeking Focus.
Welcome to Seeking Focus, a podcast that provides photographers and videographers with a place to critically compare technology, share ideas, and enhance their skills.
Hey Evan, how you going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I think I'm all right. It's how was your week last week?
Yeah, not bad. Not very eventful. Picked up a few jobs here and there. Getting back into the swing of things. Things are looking bright.
So people obviously booking you out for.
They are, yeah.
events.
So it brings a smile to my face. Look at me, I'm smiling. So the all the jobs are coming back in again. The big corporate clients are also rearing their heads, and things are back on track. So very happy.
Awesome. Yeah, same here, man. I think people are. I'm getting a lot more calls now, so a couple of jobs are coming through, and people are getting obviously spending the money to. That's a good thing because obviously I can make some money.
Yeah, send us your money now.
Send us your money now.
Now. Bring
cash. But look, I do have obviously another job as well, a part-time work, and that's been keeping me busy as well. So, but hey, this week nothing's obviously much happening, but we want to talk about is a few drones. I think quads. I like to call them quads. Do you call them quads or drones?
No, drones. Call them drones. Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I call it quads because it's a four propeller aircraft, right?
Yeah.
All right.
But they make that droning sound.
It's a cool sound. I like that sound.
That's actually sounded a little bit more like Jaws.
Yeah.
Actually, in the spirit of the drone episode, I actually took my son out today. I've got a 6-year-old, and I went flying with him. We took his drone out, and we took my drone out. Yeah.
Father-son bonding.
Yeah, it was. And then he realised that my drone was better than his drone, and he was telling me he wanted to fly my drone. I was like, no, get your hands off it. And then the crying started, and that was me crying, actually. But anyway.
Yeah. What drone do you actually have? Can you tell me?
I have a DJI,
What kind?
one of the Mavic Pros, which is like the first generation sort of, in the series of the Mavics. And my son, I bought him a little Tello, which is... I got to say, for such a small drone, it's actually quite good. It's not really designed for
Does it have a camera on it? Or?
It does. It does. It projects exactly the same as mine, except it's not very strong in the outdoors.
Yeah.
So if there's a gust of wind or something like that, it sort of travels by itself in the wrong direction.
Away.
He's like, Daddy, that's going the wrong way. I'm just like, just keep pushing. It'll get there. And then finally I've got to run after it and try and grab it. But my one's still flying mid-flight while I'm chasing another drone around. But it is actually for $100 drone. It's actually surprisingly good.
Yeah. Do you know how much does it weigh?
It's dismally light.
Yeah, okay.
I wish mine was that light. It fits in the palm of your hand. It's got little guards on it, propeller guards, so he can smash him into my head and it won't hurt me.
Yeah.
Big plus. But it's super lightweight. And I've got to say, if you are looking at investing in a drone for a child or a family member who is young and inexperienced, a little bit like me, the Tello is a good choice. It's friendly, it's easy to use, easy to operate, has an average battery life of about 12 minutes, which is
that's pretty good.
Teensy little thing.
Interesting.
And it does well. I mean, obviously you're limited because you're using Bluetooth and wireless signals, so I think you probably get like about 25, 30 meters before it drops out. But it's still good, and it's a great learning experience as well.
Interesting.
And bonding.
Well, son, that's it. I don't really bond with my son that way. My son just plays games now. He's way older than that, so that's his. He wants to get away from me now.
Yeah, my son can't get enough of me. It's like, can we swap roles? But yeah, no, it's a good experience to get out. There's obviously requirements that you need to monitor what they're doing. Cause,
of course.
Other than obviously losing the drone in a tree or something, they can also hurt people as well as themselves. So, it's one of those things where you can have fun with it, but you also got to be a little bit responsible.
If it's a lightweight and, it's obviously very protected with propeller guard and everything else, so it shouldn't be an issue, right?
Well, you'd think so. But the interesting thing about it is it actually does stunts, full 360 spins.
So it's almost like an FPV drone.
Wow, funny you should mention that. Actually, FPV drones and normal drones I really don't understand the difference. I mean, I've seen them, but I don't really get the concept of it. My drone, it flies. I let go of the controllers. It sits in the same place. It levitates, and if I'm not telling it what to do, it just sits there. And FPV on the other hand doesn't work like that, does it?
No, it doesn't. So with me, the way I've got a few FPV drones.
A few. I turn around and look at this wall of drones. It's
All right, make it 5.
It's like an invasion.
Six.
And how many spare parts to build another 5 of them?
Well, yeah, there's a few. Look, it's an interesting and actually quite interesting and exciting hobby that I found anyway. Okay, well, let's step back a little bit. So I've got a few drones and I love that hobby, and I have been flying drones for good 7 years. Yeah. So I've actually started off with an old DJI F450 and F550. For those people that don't know, these ones were pretty much the first drones that DJI, which is the I guess DJI is the primary, they're like
one of the biggest, I think.
Biggest manufacturers of drones these days, right? Yeah.
There are a couple of others which I was recently on a website and registering my drone, and it says what drones is there, and the list actually was not that huge, and predominantly the only one that I actually knew was DJI.
Yeah.
There was other ones that I've never heard of them before.
But DJI is primarily the biggest, obviously, drone manufacturer in the world, right?
Yeah, it's from China. And I mean, they've got distribution arms left, right, and center.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. So I've been obviously within a sort of droning space for a while now. And the reason why I got into it is because you can build something from scratch yourself. So you can put motors in there, you can put a camera, you can put the electronic speed controllers in to run those motors, and flight controllers, and the endless things that you can sort of modify and make images out of is fantastic. So basically I started off with the older ones, and now I actually have a DJI Mavic Pro as well, which is, I've had it for what, good 4 or 5 years now as well. Yeah. It's a brilliant drone, and it flies really, really well. I took it out for a flight today for a client, and basically it fantastic, so you can still shoot in 4K. You have your GPS locking system, so the drone will just sit there in one place and wait for your instructions. But saying that though, the FPV droning is totally different. So FPV, what people don't know, maybe FPV, what it stands for is first person view. So you are controlling the drone fully from a controller, but you see what the drone sees. So you're potentially sitting in a cockpit of the drone. Now, what I want to talk about the drones is every single FPV drone, they do look and have a different feel. So if you wanted to go, you can go acro. So you can buy a drone for acrobatics, right? And then you can buy a drone for...
Sorry, I'm just going to cut you short there. Every time you've said acro, I've heard aggro.
Aggro.
Aggro. Thank you for clarifying that, because I'm thinking, what is an aggro drone?
Yeah, a lot of people are aggro from drones.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you for the clarity. Back to you.
But so you can get an acro drone, which is acrobatics. And then you can go for long-range drones as well, and you can do senior whoops. So senior whoops would have a ducts, so they're propeller guards, just like your sun. They have guards on the propellers, so if you bump into walls or trees or whatever else, you bounce right back from that perspective. But the main thing about FPVing, I guess, it's you're sitting in a cockpit of the drone and you're controlling the drone. And the way it makes you feel free as a bird, right? So once you sort of get better at controlling those drones, it does make you feel quite free, if you know what I mean.
Sorry, I'm going to say and sorry, devil's advocate here, some people actually don't feel very free wearing those goggles because they feel sick from it.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So not everyone feels free.
Yeah, I think you sort of got to get used to it as well. So other things, I guess, the main difference between the cinematic DJI Mavics that we have is like the Phantoms. It's the big white ones that you probably do remember.
Yep, I do remember. Yeah, it's actually when we first started doing shoots together, you brought that along. That was the first drone I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and I had the goggles as well for that.
Actually, I did because Fat Sharks.
Shark,
Because I've actually modified it myself, and I love tinkering and obviously soldering and other things. So that's my hobby and my passion for that started off. So the main difference, I guess, from the DJI cinematic and the really smooth and everything else. So you've got your smart controller, your phone. You control everything. So you basically see everything on that. So from a GPS perspective, you got a GPS hold, so you can actually let go of your controllers, and that drone will just sit in one space. Now you also have sensors. So these days, there's you can get sensors on the bottom, at the front, on the sides of the drone. So if you're doing nice panning, the sensors are there. Anything comes up in front of those sensors, like a tree or a building, the drone just stops. You know what I mean? It also has a tracking. So you on your phone, when you plug into your controller, you can actually select yourself or a car or whatever else, and then start moving, and that drone will follow that car.
So actually, on that note, I saw a video recently of a woman bushwalking, and she was using her drone, and it was following her.
Yep.
The interesting thing is I always wanted to try that with my mountain bike, but I always visualized the drone going into a tree, which is a normal thing for me. I always smash into trees. But it was actually, because of the sensors, it was actually flying along slowly because she was walking slowly, and it was sensing the trees and moving around them.
Yep.
So it actually kept following her around trees and stuff. I was really impressed with that. I don't think it would work very well if you were on a mountain bike because it's higher speeds.
You can, yeah. Look, I've seen videos that people have done that.
But it wouldn't be in a very dense sort of forest.
No, that's exactly right. So it has to be a fairly open area. And look, the people have put them through a lot of testing, and some of them smashed up, and some of them obviously made it. But look, they do a great job from that perspective. It's a very smart drone, if you want to call it. It does have all the bells and whistles on it that will get you out of trouble if you do, and want to fly into a building. It will just say, "Hey, there's something in front. I'm going to stop because there's a sensor telling me that, hey, I'm going to stop." So those drones, obviously, like I said, have GPS, have all these different smart devices in it, so you can actually see how high you are, how far you are. You have maps. You can click on your app on the phone, and it tells you where in the world it is. You know what I mean? So it tells you exactly. The flight time on those drones is fantastically well. So, it goes 30 minutes flying, and you can follow someone, you can dodge objects and whatever else. So, look, those drones are really, really... Technology has moved very fast for those drones. The reason why I like FPV drones, though, it's the feeling and the sensation that you get. So you can fly them very quickly as well. So one of the drones that I do have is from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. It's like 2 to 3 seconds. This thing is like a literally rocket with the propellers on it. You know what I mean? Yes, people do argue, obviously, it's a dangerous toy, but saying that, though, it's... What's not dangerous these days, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it also comes down to the user. If the user is a logical sort of person, they'll use it and they won't go past the boundaries. They'd know that, this is an area where someone might get hurt, take it easy. But once again, there are people out there who don't do that. So
that's right, yeah. So, and unfortunately, the stigma between people and drones is quite heavy because people have been doing stupid things with it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I've heard of stories overseas where people have been seriously hurt because
correct, yeah. And I mean, people are flying big drones, for instance, that are weighing over 2-3 kilos, and something goes wrong, propeller breaks or whatever else, and this thing just straight into the ground over crowded areas. And that's just to me, that's just bigger stupidity, you know what I mean? Because people they think nothing's going to happen, but when something does go wrong,
it takes out.
It obviously goes really bad, you know what I mean?
In one particular case, I was in Singapore doing a shoot, and they had a big festival there. There was thousands of people, and whilst I was doing the shoot, I was there with my son of all things, and I heard this noise over the top of the crowd. It was really loud, so you can imagine how close it was. It was a drone flying over the top of the crowd, and it was probably hovering about 25 centimeters from people's heads. Wow. So it was that low, and it was skimming across the top of people's heads. So if someone had lifted their hand up, or someone jumped into the air, or whatever the case, it could have been...
Yeah, well, those propellers are spinning at, 20,000 RPMs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and people can get hurt. I mean, it was actually a tourist who was playing with their drone. I actually saw who the person was. But it's things like that where people don't realise the potential that you know, the damage that can be caused by a drone. Yeah. It's basically flying along with these razor blades spinning around, they cut you to pieces.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was a case in Germany where a drone was used at a wedding. And they obviously said that they wanted the drone really close. Yeah. The woman was playing with a bouquet like she was going to throw it into the air, and something happened with the drone. I'm not exactly sure. It went straight into her hand and cut her hand open at the wedding. Yeah. You know, so things can go really wrong. You know, and you need to take precautions. And
well, that's the thing. I mean, when I fly my FPV drones, and I mean they are fairly dangerous, but if you use them in the right context, so I don't fly over people, I don't do any stupid things with it. So I fly in a local park, which is obviously quite large, and then it's a community thing as well. So I'll meet up with the guys, I have a chat with them, we have a drink, not alcoholic drinks, but normal drinks. Can I just add, just in case people do want to, obviously, you know, but the whole thing about, you know, FPVing, it's a community thing. So just like photographically, community with photography or anything else, the people catch up, have a good time, and obviously talk about certain things. And what I've learned from FPV groups and other things, the whole group is actually really, really close, and they really help each other out. And I'm really grateful for that, and really love it, because some of the guys that I've met, they're just fantastic blokes. And we help each other out. So, but what I guess the main thing about the FPV component is, so first person view. So you're sitting in front with the goggles on, your controller, and you basically fly in and out of trees or whatever else. And there is a large component where it's quite hard. So when I started off, I've actually went through a simulator. So I bought my gear, got excited, but then I go, hey, you've been flying drones for a while now, so you got to hold that excitement and just try simulator. So the simulator that I've purchased was a Velocidrone, and you can buy different types of simulators where you connect your controller to it, and you basically fly like you would fly in the real world. So you can fly in and out of flags, you have obstacles that you go over and other things as well. So you'll learn that way. And very quickly, I've actually noticed I'm pretty crap at it. You know what I
mean? You don't know the meaning of crap. When I fly, I have an accident every single time. That's crap.
No, look, you know. But FPV is, you know, you've got no sensors on those drones, you know what I mean? So you can literally fly straight into a building or, you know, or tree or whatever else. So saying that though, that's why you got to I've spent probably about a good 40 hours in a simulator learning how to fly these things, you know, and the whole, it's a hobby really. It's not a really, a lot of people, there's few people that are actually starting to use FPV to start making videos, cinematic videos with them, and get to locations that normally you can't.
That's like that. It wasn't a commercial. It was more of a promo of a drone flying through buildings and went through a bowling alley.
Yeah, that was one. So that was the FPV. So yeah. I mean, with those bowling alleys, and if people haven't seen those sort of videos, so the drone obviously flies in from the outside in through the front doors, and then goes in through the bowling alley around people, and then back through where all the things are happening in the background.
The important part to pick up here is it's actually sliding between people and flying over their heads and diving over them. So
that was made in US as well. So I don't know about.
It was choreographed. I mean,
definitely was choreographed.
Yeah, it wasn't just this random send your drone into a bowling alley and start taking photos. It was choreographed, so everyone knew where to move, and obviously that would put a lot of pressure on the actual pilot. Because at the end of the day, one wrong move and
that's right. And I can tell you. I've been flying those FPV drones now. I mean, I've started off 5-6 years ago, but only recently I've actually started flying the FPV, proper FPV. And those drones don't have, like I said, no GPS locking systems, or they don't have hover mode. It's quite hard to hover those drones. But learned a lot from last 6 months where those drones quite hard to move. So for that video to be released and choreographed the way it was, that drone pilot has to have a lot of time on those sticks to be able to get that good. You know what I mean? And it's the whole thing has to be pinpoint precision. You know what I mean? Anything goes wrong, the drone just goes off its rails and then smashes. And then it's not just drone. I mean, the drone itself, it's probably about $400 or $500, but then you got the GoPro camera on top, which is another, $300, $400, $500 as well. You know what I mean? And there's obviously $1,000 just like that gone. So yeah, look, it's possible. And one of my drones is actually quite small, so I've got a little 2.5-inch drone. And with a naked GoPro. So naked GoPro, for people who don't know, is a GoPro camera. So this one here that I've got, it's a GoPro 8. And the GoPro 8 is a stripped down to bare minimum. So it literally has a lens on it and a motherboard, as in the GoPro motherboard.
Because you're using the battery that's actually connected
from
to
the drone. Itself,
so it's I've seen it. It looks like a credit card basically on top of your drone.
Yeah, look, the whole drone weighs 230 grams, and I mean the GoPro itself is only 25 grams, and the drone's like literally 160 grams or something like that, and the battery on top of that as well. So literally the whole thing is just so light, and I mean I've flown through a house with that drone. I've got a few guys that I've been hanging around with. We have flown that through a house, and then you look, the laws are quite, I guess, strange, and we probably can talk about that a little bit later on as well. But it's possible, and the technology that's moving so fast, I think the laws can't keep up with that as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, did you want to ask me any questions? Did you say?
No, not at this stage. I'm enjoying.
Still learning, yeah.
I'll never move to the FPVs. I can't even control a normal drone, let alone move to FPVs. So I just hear this and it's like, oh yeah. But I'll never.
Look, it is a bit of my passion, I mean, and the reason why I do like it is it's building it. It's tinkering with it. It's getting in there and try to figure out a fault, and just like a lot of people like electronics, and a lot of people do amazing things, connect LEDs together and do all these different things. So for me, tinkering and building it, you know what I mean? So you've got different frames. So you've got your 5-inch drones, you've got your 4-inch drones, you've got 3-inch drones. And like the smallest one that I do have is a 1 inch, and this thing is literally tiny, you know what I mean? So you can put them together. But I guess the main thing about the droning, FPV droning, is the learning curve is so high. Your brain constantly ticking and going and everything else. So you've got a lot of things like, with a DJI, for instance, you've got a smart battery in it. And then that smart battery, literally just charge it and you use it, and that's it. You don't care about anything in and outs, and you don't have to worry about battery maintenance and whatever else. With the FPV stuff, unfortunately, you're using lithium-ion batteries. And those batteries are, well, if you just check online and Google whatever that name is, people have blown and burned down houses with them, basically. So you do have to make sure you be careful what you do, how you charge. Don't overcharge that battery. Every single cell you have to check, and it's quite. You have to be quite particular about certain things. You know what I mean? With the FPV world as well, there's a bit of a lingo that you have to. There's a steep learning curve with lingo as well. So you've got your UAV, which is autonomous aerial vehicle, I think it is. Anyway, but you got your FPV, so you're a first person view. You got your RTF. So when you're purchasing an FPV drone, you got ready to fly. So you can purchase it with a controller, with the goggles, and the drone itself. Then you've got your PNP, which is your plug and play. I'm probably putting all these acronyms. You're looking at me like really blankly. Oh, Marty, I don't understand half of this stuff, man.
Very true.
But yeah, look, it's a really big learning curve, and with the Mavic, you literally can pick it up and fly it without any problems. You can press a button, and this thing will just take off to certain height that you determine it. You can plot, I want you to fly over there, and they will just do that. With FPV, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And look, that's, some people find that exciting. You know what I mean? I find that exciting, and the freedom of changing the motors from slower motors to a faster motors, or putting different speed controllers on it, and I guess the list goes on and on and on. I have actually been doing a bit of research on this, and one of the guys on YouTube that I follow he actually said these things are made to be broken. So if you smash it or you crash into a tree or whatever else, you just take one of the arms out, put a new arm in, and you keep flying. You know what I mean? But yeah, saying that though, they don't have sensors, and you got to be careful, and you got to make sure that you do the right flight checks before every single flight. So yeah, there's a lot obviously to consider when you're flying an FPV drone. One of the probably better FPV drone pilots that I know out there would be like Johnny FPV. If you do a search for Johnny FPV, did I send you that video where he was flying? He just released a Porsche FPV video, and where he was flying minus 30, plus 30, and he was flying in a desert, and then he moved to I think Norway or Finland or something, where it was just rain, snow, and he was flying in it and chasing the Porsche in the FPV mode and flying through the window and all that sort of stuff. Did I send you that? I might try to link that into the
actually
notes.
Yeah, look, you did send it to me. I must confess,
care factor zero.
No, it wasn't a care factor. It was just I just didn't have a chance to look at it yet. But yeah, no, I remember the icon that popped up on my screen. And I went, oh, you got it, and then something happened. So
yeah, definitely worthwhile checking out, because I showed that video to my wife, and she was like, "Whoa, that's just like on the next level." You know what I mean? And with FPV, you can do that. Those drones don't have sensors, so if you're a good enough pilot, you can do some unbelievable tricks and flips and going through, old buildings or whatever else. So, yeah, look, I think, talked about this sort of stuff to a fair bit. So I just want to sort of touch on a bit of laws, I guess, within Australia.
And the laws are identical for FPV and normal drones.
They are, yeah.
Yes. So it carries across.
Well, it's a drone at the end of the day, right? So
actually, I think there's more laws that impact the FPV than the standard drones. For example, the goggles, because FPV you use goggles.
Correct. Yeah.
You can't fly an FPV without the goggles.
Well, yeah. So in Australia, that's kind of illegal at the moment, which I think, like I said in the past, so the technology is moving way faster than the law can.
And sorry, I'm going to stop you there. I think we should put a disclaimer in here that what we're talking about here with the laws and stuff, it's basically our interpretation of it, because unfortunately the laws in Australia are actually, when it comes to drones, is very, very difficult to understand. There's contradictions. We've come across so many different things that just contradict each other. And, so what we're going to be talking about from here on, I guess, is about our perceptions of what the law is.
Yep.
And there's a lot of clarity that's needed. Unfortunately, it's not available. And the leading body, CASA.
So Central Aviation of Australia.
Yeah, look, you go to their website and, you try and find information. And in their defense, they're doing a pretty decent job, but it's difficult to find half the stuff that you want. And when you do find something, it doesn't explain it fully, and you're sort of left to your own devices. And this would bring us up to a point about your FPVing inside a house.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, so I just want to sort of briefly say, so CASA, C-A-S-A, so it's actually a Civil Aviation Safety Authority of Australia, so in Australia. So in America, you got FAA, which is Federal Aviation, I don't even know, to be honest with you. But look, we live in Australia, so it's CASA is basically the governing body for that. So look, you have a bit of a law background with yourself as well. What are your thoughts on the law itself from a safety point of view? Or maybe just give us an idea what is your background as well, maybe.
Okay, so worked in government for a very, very long time to subsidise my addiction to photography and videography. It sounds almost like it's been 6 months since my last night. Basically, I used to work with laws and legislation. So I was exposed to, the concepts. Why were they built? Why were they created? What benefits are they?
Yep.
So at the end of the day, laws are there to protect the community.
Correct, yeah.
Right. So anything that, CASA, or sorry, I mispronounce everything. So people get used to that by a couple of episodes' time. The laws that are there are meant to be protecting the community. Now, I think the way they're written is confusing. Trying to find those laws is virtually impossible, and it's all over the place, and it's causing a lot of grief. Now, there are certain requirements that are clear. You can't fly closer to people than 30 meters, unless, of course, those people are part of your recording. The height restrictions.
Yeah, so basically as soon as you buy a drone in Australia, what you need to do is get onto a CASA website, and then you have to get an ARN number. ARN number is basically a number that will identify you as an owner of a drone. Now, once you sort of get that, and you have to provide them with your license and passport and details and whatever else, so they have to know it's you. And then you can register your drones with CASA themselves. Now, look, the reason why they do it, and I see why they do it, because there is a lot of people out there that they do stupid things with it, you know what I mean? So if something goes wrong and then crashes into a car, and you're flying a Phantom, for instance, DJI Phantom probably weighs over a kilo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So you're flying it over a freeway.
So from 120 meters. So legally, you can fly up to 120 meters, 30 meters away from people. So if you lose power at 120 meters, this thing goes down to a car, it will smash a window or whatever else.
You can imagine you're driving down the freeway, or whatever they call it in overseas. But one of those high speed areas, the car's driving along. Suddenly, this 2 kilogram weight comes through the front window. You lose control. You roll the car several times. You take out a whole bunch of other cars. You kill some people. The possibilities are endless, and those laws are there because they're logical,
Well, they're protecting the community, right?
Don't fly on top of people, don't fly on top of crowds, and look, some people just don't want to follow those laws because they're like, well, they're above the law, supposedly. But they're there for a reason. And those laws, they're everywhere. So, don't do this, and they're fine, cool, they're easy to understand. But there's a lot of other things there which just don't make any sense at all. Contradictions. You can fly in certain parks. You can't fly in national
parks, but you can fly in state parks.
This is the thing. Like, you're saying you can in a state park, but I've read that you can't.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I'm contradictions here, right? So there's no. I've tried to find something on the website, can't find anything.
Yeah.
So
well, the CASA website actually clearly. Well, once you sort of get into it and try to get that, if you're gonna get your ARN number, then basically you go through quick free test that they sort of give you, and that test gives you a few questions. So one of the questions on the test would be, which of the following is considered commercial activity for a RPA, so your drone, and then you got to select different things. So so commercial activity would be a mapping of a construction site, for instance, or taking photos of real estate. But when you're flying in the park with your kid, that's perfectly legal, as long as there's no people in the park.
But this is the thing,
more
right?
than 30 meters.
As long as it's not a national park.
Yeah.
Right. But there's also, here's another example, and this is where it gets confusing, right? So I can't fly from a national park, so I can't take off in a national park. I can't land in a national park.
You have to have a permit, yeah.
I can't be standing in a national park with my drone.
Yeah.
But if I'm at the front gate and I'm not in the national park, I can launch from the front gate. I can send my drone into the national park, no issue, because I'm not in the national park, and I can come back down again.
Oh, yeah, you can't argue with, because you're flying inside those perimeters.
And remember, there's no ownership of the airspace. So at the end of the day, there is no ownership above land.
Yeah.
So there's no law there. But if I'm standing in the thing, that's when it causes issues. So I could be 3 meters down the road at the gate.
And that's what we try and say, I guess. That's the whole thing is just convoluted.
It is. It's all over the place.
A lot of people look at it and they go, but you're not allowed to fly here. But yeah, it's
this comes back to you recently did a shoot where you did a real estate shoot inside a house.
Yep.
You were the only person there. The house was closed off. No one had access to it.
Yep.
You were wearing goggles, I presume, at the time?
Yeah, so I was wearing the FPV goggles, correct. So I can see where the drone is going to.
Because once it went up the stairs and went to the next floor, you couldn't see it, but the drones allowed you to see the goggles, sorry, not the drones. The question, though, that was actually posed to you was, well, first of all, it's illegal because you haven't got line of sight. Well, you're wearing the goggles, first of all. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But you can't see the drone because one of the requirements is that you can actually see the drone at all times with your own eyes. Yeah. No screens and stuff like that. So even if you didn't have the goggles on and you sent the drone upstairs, technically you can't see it. Yep. And people were in a bit of a flutter about it. They were saying, technically you can't do that because it's illegal.
Yeah, correct.
Right. So it comes back to the question of, well, why is it illegal? Now, the whole concept of law is to protect people.
Yeah.
Right. So the question is, who's it protecting? If you're in a house with absolutely no one there,
it's a private property we're talking about.
Private property, yeah. So it wasn't just some random person's house that we walked into. Hey, how's it going? So technically, it's on private property. There's no one around that can possibly get hurt. Yet people are saying that it's illegal. Now, I'll just move it across to a completely different subject. If I've got an automobile, I like the word automobile, car, 4-wheel drive, motorbike, whatever. If I'm driving that vehicle or riding that vehicle on my own private property,
well, you got 30 acres somewhere 30 in the bush.
It doesn't have to be registered. I don't need a license because at the end of the day, it's on my property, and the only person who's going to get hurt is me. Right? So the law was, if you're going to be on the road, you need to pay insurance, you need to have a license, you need to protect other people. But hang on a sec. I'm in private property flying a drone. There's no one else around who's going to get hurt. Yet the laws are different. And that doesn't make sense. So once again, there's a contradiction there.
Yeah, look, I got a fair bit of bad feedback from that as well, because a lot of people were saying, hey, you need to make sure that this thing is under 250 grams, which it is. And
but what does it matter?
Well,
it's in your own private property.
I know.
And this is where there's a whole bunch of issues.
And I totally agree with you. And I see why people get upset. I mean, there's a number of times where I flew my drone with my kids, in the park, where I'm totally legal to fly it, totally legal to do everything that I need to do, as long as obviously I'm 30 meters from other people. And as soon as I took off that drone, I got attacked by other people. You know what I mean? Like either, a guy literally from 50, 60 meters away saw me, and he literally launched at me to be, so I think the whole concept of a drone is because there's been so many stupid people that done so many different, I guess,
funny things, but
funny things, But
can I give an example? And people have probably forgotten about this. Probably about 2 years ago, I think it was, a person was sitting in his jacuzzi in his backyard. He launches his drone from his backyard, flies down a couple of blocks to the local Bunnings, which is a hardware store. And normally at the front of a Bunnings store, they have a sausage sizzle. And so he lowers the drone down with a string and a little basket. It had money in there, a note saying, 1 hot dog, please. So they took the money, and it was all being recorded, mind you. They put the hot dog in and he flew it back to his house. Right. And look, it was funny. It was at the time it was great because no one had done something like that.
Yeah.
But the potential there for someone to get hurt, it was a problem. And then the problem that emerged from that, I mean, it was a one-off. It was, we could learn something from it. But then there was the copycats. And it just started happening over and over and over again. Not so much about sausage sizzles, but, it might have been a joke, but it's potential for it to turn into something a lot worse. And
look, CASA had to, I guess, do something about that. So
I think he actually received a fine.
He did. I think it was around actually $10,000 as well.
Yeah, because initially, I think for the first few weeks, everyone was like laughing about it. It was on the news, but then they had to step in because obviously, if they didn't do something, then every other idiot would be. And sorry, I shouldn't say idiot because he wasn't an idiot. He was kind of cool, but and then you had the issue.
Back then, I think it was quite new as well. All the drones and everything else was quite new. A lot of people don't know it, and it's quite funny because I'm gonna say this over and over again. The laws are just not moving fast enough for the technology that's out there. Like I've got a scooter as well for my kids, and I'll go scootering with my kids, and electric skateboard. And apparently that's illegal as well.
They are illegal. You're right.
Because it's a vehicle that's not registered.
And you don't have a license.
And I don't have a license, but
you can't actually get a license for that type of vehicle, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, you can't get a license, and you can just walk into local, local store like JB Hi-Fi, and you can just buy a scooter just like that. You know what I mean? So these people that are making these laws, they need to be accountable for what's on sale. You know what I mean? And how fast are those laws changed?
In their defense, at the end of the day, if I wanted to buy a scooter and use it on my private property, well, there's nothing wrong with that. So that's why they're available. So it's one of those things where it's a little bit of give and take, I think, at the end of the day. It can go either way. But having clarity to a lot of these laws is a big thing. One other thing that I actually want to bring up, and it's still sort of in the same vein as the laws that we're talking about. When you go to the website, which tells you where you can fly your drone, there's a map.
Yeah.
And I think
the CASA,
but it's not CASA. They've sold it to some other company which does it worldwide. It's a worldwide map. Anyway, so you log on there, you type in the address. It says you can't fly here because it's an airport, or this is a runway.
You're talking about OK to fly or something like that.
Yeah, that's the one. Can I fly here?
Oh, yeah. There is so Open Sky, I think it is.
Open Sky. That's right. Yes. Yeah. So that's worldwide. And look, it's a great resource. Don't get me wrong. But they tell you that because they've taken it off of the CASA site. It says you must go there. So they point you in that direction.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do with it.
Correct, yeah.
It's a private enterprise. So you go onto this map, you type in the address, it says to you can't fly here because you're right next to the airport. And there is a restriction of 5.5 kilometres from airports, which is fine.
We should probably mention, step by step, which restrictions are there in Australia. But yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, so we'll do that. But, okay, so the one thing that I've actually noticed about that, which is going to cause confusion for people, is, and it's happened to me, that map will tell you not to fly here because there's a military base, there's an airport, there's a helipad, blah, blah, blah. But it won't tell you that you're flying in a national park or in a waterway that's owned by national parks or a state park. And so basically you look at this map, you go, there's no airport here, there's nothing, no military base, I can fly here. And you go over and you start flying, thinking you've done the right thing, and of course you're not because you're breaking another law.
Correct.
And that needs to be incorporated into that map.
And furthermore to that as well, every single council in Melbourne or in Australia, they have their own laws considering drones.
And what I discovered yesterday was that each state in Australia has different laws pertaining to flying in their parks.
Yeah.
So one of them you need a permit, one won't allow you to, the other one, it just changes from location to location. So clarity is the most important thing, and I think there's a lack of that at the moment.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. And look, I mean, in CASA's defense, they are trying. There is so much out there at the moment that they're trying to obviously give you an idea what to do and what not to do. So they have released, videos and other things for easy learning.
Look, I understand that, but I actually went there yesterday for this episode, and I thought, I'm going to get accredited so that I can be recognised as a person who flies a drone commercially. I kid you not, I was there for 30 minutes trying to find a location where I could actually log on and do the quiz and get my qualifications. I couldn't find it. It was just all over the place. Finally, I watched a video which said, this is how you do it. I'm like, oh, great, fantastic. I followed the steps in the video. And I get it to the web page. I get to the first page, go to the second page. The third page wasn't there. The link wasn't there. Like, nothing matched up. I floundered around for another 10, 15 minutes, and I finally find it. I did my online test. Halfway through it, the site crashes. Right? Had to do it again. So I finish it. I pass. I'm like, woohoo! I got 89%. And you have to have at least 85% of the test to pass. So I just...
I got 100 on that, mate. What are you doing, bro?
Yeah, don't ask. I was too busy eating corn chips at the time. Anyway, and so I've done that. And it says, press here to go get your certificate. I'm like, great, press the button. The site crashes again.
Yeah.
Nothing would happen. Nothing would load up. So it was a frustrating
It's funny
experience.
that you mentioned that, because I've had my ARN number for probably about a year. And when I purchased my FPV drones, I wanted to put them onto that site as well, so I'm fully legally, they know that I've got those drones with me, so anything goes wrong, I am accountable, and I want to be accountable for these things because I've built them, I fly them, it's my responsibility. So I've actually jumped onto that website. I've had my number, my email, my password for it, and I logged onto that website and it says your account doesn't exist. So I was just like, well, hang on, mate. Look, I do have my ARN number. So I had to reapply again, and I had to redo everything again because it wasn't there. And yeah, okay, something going wrong or whatever, but I definitely had that, and I've had everything saved into my Word.
But you also call the Mike Hasser account.
Yeah. So look, the laws, I totally understand that they're trying to protect the public, and I totally understand that they obviously there for a reason. You know what I mean?
Sorry, and one other thing that I actually discovered yesterday when I did the test was that if you're under 18, you need to be supervised by someone wwho's actually qualified.
Is it 18 or
16 or
15
18?
or 16 or
Anyway,
something like that,
yeah, young kids, but anyway.
Yeah.
So as far as I knew, it didn't matter what type of drone they were flying or anything like that. They were little kids just playing around. But they actually have to be supervised by someone who actually is accredited.
Yeah, someone that's basically done that ARN number and that short test, a free test.
Yeah, the free test. And it is a free test, so go out, do it, get accredited.
Yeah. So what we're trying to say, I guess, try to, be legal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We don't want you to be busted. Just like riding a bike, you have to have a helmet, you know what I mean? It's for your safety, it's for safety of others and everything else as well. So personally, I'm actually considering going for my pilot's license, my drone license as well. And I've done a bit of research as well. And there's so many different things as well there. And it's just like, come on, guys, seriously, why can't you just pick one license and, be done with it? Or, just explain the whole process a little bit more. So I want to go for the REPL license, which is the standard.
They all sound the same. RPA, RPE.
Yeah, so it's a remote pilot's license, REPL. And then you jump onto the third-party websites that offer those courses, and the whole course is 5 days, and then you've got a practical at the end, and then you fly a Phantom or whatever else, right? But then, that course, one website, it's $1,500. Then you look at another website, it's $2,500. And then you look at another website, it's $3,500. And then you kind of think to yourself, what? Seriously, I understand, $100 here, $100 there, but $1,000 difference to get the same accreditation to be able to fly it. It's to me, that's just beyond me. It's just so frustrating. You probably can tell in my voice. I'm so frustrated with this whole process.
You sound like me.
You know what I mean? And then you look at it again, and you got remote operator certificate, which is the REOC certificate, which apparently only, what I've been told with a few guys that I obviously hang around with, they said that is only if you own a business and you're employing drone pilots, so you have to have that certificate. And it's like, okay.
Even though they probably have their own.
Yeah, they do, because you have to be able to be accredited, but you have to have a remote pilot's license to be able to create it. And it's frustrating. You know what I mean?
It is.
The whole law needs to be looked at properly, and and accommodate for for these things. And I mean, I don't know how strict they are because I've never been busted by CASA, and probably after this show I probably will be. But seriously, I am following the rules. I am flying my hobby drone that I can literally go into the shop and buy, because DJI just released a new FPV drone, right? Literally a couple of months ago. And I know you're not into the FPV system, but they have released this new FPV drone, and it's amazing. Like you can fly up to 10 kilometers away. You know what I mean? And because you can do it, people will do it. You know what I mean? It's a stupid thing. You know what I mean? I've never had my drone more than 300 or 400 meters away from me. Never. I can tell you that for a fact. And I fly in the park and I fly away from people. But, with these new drones, you can fly, so far away, you won't be able to see it with your naked eye, right? Yet on the CASA website, I understand that they want to know that you have that drone, but there is an option there for DJI FPV drone, which, to me is, it should be there, but it also should say, hey, this is totally illegal in Australia if it's illegal in Australia, you know what I mean? The law that CASA is, pushing through and down our throats virtually, it's so muddy. They really need to step up and then pick this up and help people out, you know what I mean, here. That's just my point of view. What do you think, man?
I completely agree. It is difficult. And look, I've got, like I said earlier, I've worked in legislation area, laws and so on, and I struggled to find my way through it. And look, it's not only because the laws are a little bit confusing and they're contradictory, but because you just can't find the information you need on their website. So, I just want to sort of cut away from the discussion of podcast.
I get a bit, it's like fired up.
But one thing that I actually want to point out, and this is something that happened to me when I was starting off my business, and I got my public liability insurance, which highly recommended if you're out there working with clients. For some reason, clients always trip over my tripods. It's almost like there's a magnet, and they just I can put it in the corner, and they'll still trip over my tripods. So having public liability insurance is actually quite important. Now, one thing that I did discover when I was actually getting my public liability insurance is that most public liability insurance does not cover you for flying a drone. In fact, they will void your insurance if you're flying a drone. So just because you have public liability insurance, do not presume that your drone is also covered. In fact, you probably will need to take out special insurance just for that. And it gets really even muddier in that sort of department, because when I won't say which company it was, but they said to me, do you have a drone? I said, I do. And they said, we can't insure you. And I said, well, at that stage, I had no intentions of flying a drone commercially. So I said, well, I'm not flying it commercially. I'm flying it for myself as a hobby. And they're like, so you're not going to use it for your work? I said, no, not at all. It's just for my personal use. And they said, as long as you're not using it commercially, then your insurance is fine. I'm like, cool. I said, just devil's advocate, right? If I do need to do some, drone footage once in a blue moon, which I don't really do drone footage personally, it's not my thing. If I want to do drone footage, can I get insurance from you guys? And they said, no, your insurance will be void. I'm like, I felt like I was speaking to a broken record. I was like, okay. And you know me, if I find a challenge, I've got to sit there and find a way around it, a loophole or something. So I sat there and interrogated these people in the insurance agency, and they just kept saying to me, no matter what, if you touch a drone, you look at.
So hang on, if you have a drone pilot's license that you paid $2,500 for,
nope,
they still won't insure you with that.
No, you need to get specific public liability insurance for a drone.
Because, so it's a different type of insurance.
Yeah, it's because it's potential for damage, right? And if you do have that other public liability insurance, I'm not sure if you need to have the standard liability insurance, or if that becomes void anyway.
I guess every company will be different, man.
It will be. And the thing is, trying to find public liability insurance for drone flying is not cheap, from what I've been told. I never bothered. But I posed the question to him. I said, okay, I'm never going to fly a drone, but if I do need to have a drone on set for a shoot, can I bring in a contractor? And they said, no. And I'm like, why is that? And they said, because your public liability insurance is not for drones. I said, well, no, I'm not going to be flying it. I'm paying someone else to fly it who will be registered and have their own public liability insurance. And they kept repeating the same thing over. No, you will.
So hang on. So you're telling me if that guy is on site with you,
has his own insurance.
holding his own insurance, has a drone in his hand,
Mm-hmm.
even though your client trips over your tripod, you're not covered. Is that what they're saying?
Well, if that drone footage was anyway tied into the footage that I was recording, then yes. So, it's, but I'm saying, well, why has that got anything to do with me? I'm paying this person to do a job. They're insured. What the hell's that got to do with me?
Yeah, because you're going to use that footage later on, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm like, but it's not me. They're insured. So if anything happens, they're covered. No, you void your insurance. I'm like, this is not making any sense. Once again, it's cloudy. And, me pushing the boundaries, kept sitting there and finding different ways that I could do this. And then, of course, I being the smart ass that I am, I turned around and said, so if I buy stock footage of a drone and put it into my video, it was just at that point, I think they wanted to hang up on me. Because it's the same thing. It's not my footage. I'm not the one recording the damn thing. What the hell's it got to do with me?
I don't know, but I'm guessing if anything goes wrong and you make a claim with them, I don't think they would go to it. Maybe they bloody would, actually. Who knows? But I'm just thinking, would they go to a length of reviewing all your videos and saying, hey, you got a drone footage and that you're not insured? Is that what they're trying to say?
They will find every possibility to...
Look, I have shot for a client in the past, and this was in Canberra, for instance, right? I never had my drone, so I had to fly up there. I purchased a stock footage of I think it was Canberra.
Liability is not covered, mate. No.
Yes, I was just going to say, seriously, but because...
I don't look. I think at the end of the day, obviously, it's who you're speaking to. I mean, I could have been talking to someone who had no idea.
I had no idea.
But I did call back, so I made 2 calls because me pushing the boundaries again, and I got almost identical responses. So public liability insurance for your average sort of activities, photography, videography, does not extend to cover drone photography or videography.
And that's one of the reasons why if I do fly indoors and probably that's highly illegal and all sorts of stuff. And I mean, if I'm flying in my own house, in my own studio, that's highly illegal as well. But what I'm trying to say is these laws need to be looked at in a sense of
consistency and clarity.
Correct, yeah.
Easy access.
Yeah.
And I might add, and we'll use your email address here as well if it's possible. If anyone has any ability to provide or shed some light on these laws, especially about the one flying inside a house on your own private property, please send us an email. Do you want to give us your email address?
Yeah, well, it says marty@melbourneimages.com.au. And I mean, I'm more than happy to have a chat with people and obviously try to get clarity. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to try to arrange a meeting with one of the CASA representatives. So I'm going to try to obviously have a chat with them and try to get clarity on that as well. And hopefully do another episode on this as well, because if they share some more light, I want to share the light to our listeners as well. So, like the drone that I'm flying indoors, it's, under 250 grams. So literally this thing is so tiny, has a tiny camera on it. And yes, I am piloting it through goggles where I know I can't see it, yet I know exactly where the drone is.
But you've also got a spotter with you as well.
I do,
So you've got someone who's actually looking at the damn drone and then speaking to you and saying you're getting too close to a tree or don't go any further.
Well, when you're flying outdoors, definitely. But inside the house, you kind of, you don't need it. It's inside doors, you know what I mean? So that's the whole thing that brought this episode in, because we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to make sure that everyone is safe. We try to do obviously a lot of safe and proper things, but it's the laws in Australia are very holding us back. Don't hold us back, laws.
Well, anyway, look, I can understand that the frustration. I mean, me, I enjoy trying to figure these things out, but even I was getting to the point where I felt like I was headbutting a wall. But it's hard. But potentially, like you said, we might do another episode on this.
I like to, because I think I'm gonna do more research, and I'm gonna try to.
But I was gonna say, hopefully we could possibly go live and when you're in court. We'll do the podcast from court or possibly prison cell.
Well, it's. I don't know if anyone's gone to prison for that sort of stuff, but they've obviously been fined fairly heavily.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I mean, I can't afford $10,000 fine and obviously have it on my record as well. So I'm trying to do the right thing, and yet they're stopping us from, moving forward. Simple as that. You know what I mean?
Look, I don't think it's their intention, but it is happening.
Oh yeah, by all means, and but everyone's obviously trying to make sure that we do the right thing, and that's simple as that. Anyway, I think this is it.
That's another episode, isn't it?
Yeah, that is another episode for that. Hopefully, when I get accredited fully and get more information on this, and I'll share my love, and for my FPV droning, for my conventional droning, and cinematography, and whatever else. Come on, get excited.
Woo, woo.
All right, thanks guys.
That's us for another episode.
Yeah, thanks very much for listening, and see you on the next one.
Stay cool.